Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're doing something pretty ambitious.
Yeah.
We're diving deep into the doctrine of the fall, but we're zeroing in on just one tiny Greek phrase in Romans 5.12.
Ah, that verse.
Exactly. Because how you translate just those few characters, well, it changes everything. Are we born guilty or are we born, enslaved?
It's a huge question, and to even start unpacking it, you need the background. Paul's background, Second Temple Judaism.
Right.
The world back then wasn't seen as neutral territory. It was a battleground, a cosmic conflict.
Okay.
You had God's righteous order, think that it's Tzedek and Mishpat, holding creation together.
That's like the fundamental justice and rightness of God's rule, the stability of everything.
Exactly. That's the foundation. And then you have this dominion of darkness pushing against it.
So what does that conflict look like? Are we talking abstract forces?
Not exactly. In this worldview, sin and death aren't just concepts. They're personified. They're like malevolent rulers, tyrants almost. Yeah, who basically seized control through Adam's failure. They set up a kind of hostile regime over the world.
Okay, that sounds very physical, almost political, like a hostile takeover. But where does personal sin, forgiveness fit into that picture?
Well, it reframes salvation. Think of it as a great transfer. Paul talks about it in Colossians.
Colossians 1.13.
That's the one. A rescue aristodo from the dominion of darkness and into Christ's kingdom.
And Jesus' actions, like the exorcisms.
Right. Think Matthew 12. Those weren't just healings. They were seen as tangible proof, like battlefield victories. The kingdom of God literally reclaiming territory from these usurpers.
Okay, wow. So that context sets the stage for Romans 5.212.
Precisely.
And the whole thing hangs on that final little phrase.
Yeah.
Eftah kalsa first. What are the translation options here? This is the pivot point, right?
It absolutely is. And it's tricky because the Greek is ambiguous. So option 1 is the traditional reading, the causal one.
Which translates as...
Because all sinned. Pretty straightforward. This implies universal death is, well, the result of everyone's individual sins.
Okay, makes sense. What's the alternative?
The alternative, championed by scholars like David Bentley Hart and others, is consequential. It reads, whereupon all sinned.
Whereupon. So the timing changes.
Completely flips the logic. It suggests death, the tyrant, came first, and sinning is the inevitable result, the behavior that follows from being under death's rule.
Okay, two very different pictures. Does Paul's own argument nearby give us any clues?
I think it strongly supports the consequential reading. Look at the very next verses, Romans 5.13 and 14.
What does he say there?
Paul points out that death reigned over everyone, even between Adam and Moses. And this was a time when sin was technically not counted because the law hadn't been given yet.
Ah, so there was no formal law to break, no specific transgression to be guilty of, but people still died.
Exactly. If death reigned even when sin wasn't being formally tallied up, then individual sin can't be the primary cause of death.
So death must be the inherited condition itself.
It looks that way. Death is the primary problem, the regime we're born under.
Okay, so this choice, because versus whereupon, it creates two fundamentally different ways of seeing the whole human problem, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Two distinct theological models.
Let's unpack those. What's the first one, the traditional one?
That's the Western Augustinian model. It really hinges on a later Latin mistranslation of efshi, as in quo.
In quo meaning?
In whom, as in whom Adam all sinned. See how that shifts it? It becomes about inherited guilt, a shared legal status.
Right, like we all somehow participated in Adam's crime legally?
Kind of. So the problem is seen as a legal one, a crime needing a forensic remedy, paying the penalty.
Okay, that's the guilt model. What are the other one based on the whereupon reading?
That leads more towards the Eastern perspective, or what Hart argues for. The focus shifts to inherited mortality.
Mortality. So being subject to death, a tyrant.
Precisely. We're born into enslavement to death. It's an ontological state, a state of being, ontological bondage. Sin isn't the root crime. It's the result, the contagion or corruption that comes from living under death's rule.
So the solution isn't paying a legal fine.
No, the solution is liberation. It's rescue. It's victory over the tyrant. That's the Christus Victor idea.
Christ the victor.
Yeah. And it's interesting, the pre-Augustinian Greek church fathers, like Chrysostom, they leaned heavily towards this mortality interpretation. The guilt model seems to be a later development, possibly rooted in that Latin translation issue.
So if we take that consequential reading, humanity's core problem isn't guilt, but bondage. Ontological bondage to this hostile power, death. And Christ came as the victor to overthrow that regime and free us.
That sums it up pretty well. It reframes the whole narrative.
It really does.
And it leaves you with the profound question, if our actions, our everyday choices, aren't just, happening on some neutral stage,
Right.
but are actually acts of enlistment, either aligning with God's rightful throne or, well, siding with the dominion of darkness.
Yeah.
How does that change how you think about ethics? About your purpose? What does it mean to live? Knowing every action potentially aligns you with one cosmic power or the other. That's really something for you, the listener, to wrestle with